Hi, I'm here today to talk to you about your quarterly rocks. Do you know what I mean when I talk about quarterly rocks? They're those big goals and projects that are actually what will move your business forward, whether that's bringing on more customers and clients or adding a new service or product offering or bringing more people onto your team. That doesn't happen from your day-to-day activities. It doesn't happen from being on social media or answering the phone or responding to emails. They're bigger than that. Our day is made up of many things though, and so those quarterly rocks, or rocks in general, just don't get any attention paid to them. So I'm here to explain where that metaphor comes from. And so you can see I have this buffet of interesting things, and I promise this is not some bizarre cooking show. I am not going to cook with any of these things. These are all metaphoric. So here are your rocks, your big projects. Here are bigger things, not as big as goals and projects, but they're maybe monthly tasks, things that you need to get done. Then you have maybe weekly or daily things that you have to do. Then you have sand, that is the stuff that fills in the cracks, and it takes up your time. And then you have water, which I'm using it to be a stand-in for the emails, the phone ringing, the fires that you have to put out. And ideally, in our business, in our lives, we would do a little bit of all of these. We know that we can't do it all. We know we have to do those emails and the phone calls and the weekly tasks and the monthly tasks. But what often happens is the goals and projects get left out because we find ourselves all the time focused on these other things and we don't really make time for the bigger ones. So this is what our day usually ends up looking like, which, again, this is going to be your email and the phone ringing and maybe the draw of social media. And so this is what ends up filling up your day. And then, if you're lucky, you might have an opportunity to do a few more things, like, oh, the computer decided to crash and so you have to go look for another hard drive. Or you're going to try to find that file that's missing. Then, maybe, you'll do some of those daily things that are actually on your to-do list, right? And so you'll just fill that up and fill it up and see, yes, some things are spilling to the side, because isn't that what our day ends up being like? Maybe by Friday, we'll actually get to those bigger things, those weekly and maybe monthly goals. And here we go. And here we go. Now we're hoping to maybe pay attention to some of our rocks. So let's see how many rocks we can actually work on. Oh, well, there's one. Oh, there's sort of a second, and now maybe I can fit in. Oh, wait, look, I can almost do it. I can almost do it. But then things are going to start to spill over, and we don't actually get to comfortably do what we need to do. And there is a better way. Okay, so now we're back. Just as a little, like, behind the scenes. So when you do this whole metaphorical showing with the water and the sand or whatever, you have to make the sand dry. So there's some, time lapse in between. But I have actually the same ingredients on the buffet that I did before. So I have not altered anything. Now, if you remember, it didn't maybe look so bad that, we finally got a lot of things in here. Yeah, the rocks were kind of, over the top and tumbling. And is that how we want to do it? Do we want to start with the emergencies and the email and the phone calls and then try to get some things done on our daily to-do list and then work on our weekly tasks and our monthly tasks, and then if we have any energy left over, then maybe we can work on our rocks, our goals, our projects. We know what happens after we've done the email and the phone calls and the fires that need our attention right now, and people calling us and, oh, I got to do this today because tomorrow this report is due, or the proposal is due Thursday, or whatever it might be. Do we really have time to actually work on our rocks? No. So even the metaphor, the example that I showed where, okay, they get done at the very end, actually that really doesn't happen because we're too busy with this other stuff. So ideally, this is how we want to do it. We start with the rocks. And everything actually will fit in here, by the way. I promise. And I hope I don't break anything. I've done this 3 times, so I know it works. But I still don't really want to break anything. So we start with our rocks. Now, if we have 5 big projects, we're probably not going to do all 5 projects, but this is a metaphor, so stay with me. So you can see, I have all the rocks in here. And you might be thinking, how the heck in the world are you going to get any of that other stuff in? It's actually going to fit much better than it did in that other scenario. All right, let's go with some of those monthly tasks, maybe. Those things that have to happen on a regular basis that aren't necessarily in our daily to-do list. And we get those in there, and they go in. Again, this is the same amount. This is exactly the same amount that I did before. I'm not fooling you, not doing less, fewer, whatever. I'm gonna play around a little bit because that's what happens, right? We adjust a rock, we get some of those things in there, we add a little bit more. All right, and now we go to, these are our to-dos that we plan out for the week when we do our weekly planning. Well, you might not do weekly planning, I do. If you don't do weekly planning, you really might want to, because it's how stuff gets done. And just like before, yes, some of those little weekly and daily to-dos kind of go everywhere, and that's all right. Oh, and now my rock is it's stuck in there, but it'll be okay. Because wait till you see what happens after all this. Okay, so the reason why you do this is because these other daily things, they fill in the cracks, right? You can do your quarterly rocks, you can do your monthly tasks, you can do all these things, and everything will filter down to the bottom. And if I didn't have this big rock stuck here at the bottom, you'd really be able to see it. But, live video, whatever. So now we pour in the email and the phone calls and the social media. Because honestly, this should not dictate your day. What should dictate your day is what progress can you make on your big projects, your big goals, your rocks, and then what other things need to happen. I really recommend that you schedule when you check your email, that you just don't have it open all the time. But now let's watch this. I'm gonna let it's gotta filter all the way down to the bottom. There's probably some air holes somewhere there. Again, there's that big rock that's really taking up some space. So that's kind of messing with my metaphor a bit. But it's actually really cool looking. So for a metaphor, it's actually pretty awesome. I really can get this in here. Okay, so I had to get that dislodged, but honestly, that fits the metaphor. Sometimes we get so involved in those big projects and big goals that they really do gum up the works. And then we don't have time for the things like the email and the fires that are burning and the phone calls. What I want you to get from this is this scenario works better than the last one. In the last one, we had the rocks kind of like they were a little bit at the top. They weren't really inside this container. Right now we have everything in the container. And it doesn't, again, could be like a lovely art project. But that's the point. The point is, if you leave your goals, your projects, your rocks till the end, then they have to sit on top of everything else. And you may not have the time, the resources, the energy to focus on those rocks. So you need to somehow pay attention, love, make time, carve out time for those rocks. And that's why in this scenario, we started with them first. Now, can you do that every day? No, it's not realistic. But should you do it some of the times? Should you carve out some days where you can do that? Absolutely. The point of this whole exercise is if you have these goals and you have these projects, but you don't spend any time on them, then they just remain goals and projects in the ether. Unless you actually do something with them, they won't happen. So I hope this helps explain why we call them quarterly rocks instead of just goals or projects. And it's because you really want to focus on the rocks and find time for that. This is what I help people with in my end of year review support program. Every year I do what's called an end of year review workshop where we go deep into what's happened at this whole year, what we've learned from it, what we can appreciate from it, and then apply all of that to the next year and how we want to do things differently. And part of that is we claim our first quarters, our first 90 days rocks. And 2 years ago when I did this, it occurred to me, well, yeah, it's a great workshop, but once we've done this workshop and I just let them fly off on their own, they don't have any support. So I started offering this support program. So every month we meet for a group coaching call. And then we also have a 4-hour virtual, what I call just work on it, where we come together for 4 hours and we work on whatever we need to, whether those are our rocks, or it's the water, or it's the sand, the pebbles, whatever it might be. So I want to invite you to be part of this end of year review support program, even if you didn't go through the actual workshop. If you've got goals and you love the idea of group collaboration and accountability and energy, and then every quarter we set our new rocks, then this program is for you. So I invite you to join us and be part of this, and I look forward to supporting you on creating and fulfilling your quarterly rocks. Thank you.